Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the very interesting seminar. I think that we started from history, and I also start from the history. Um, like already mentioned, sometimes in the early 70s, about 40,000 Finns moved to working in Sweden, and uh, and there is about 700,000 people in Sweden who has Finnish origin somehow. Either their parents or their grandparents have some Finnish origin, and that is because of the common Nordic labor markets. So it's very important, and we there is one um, rural community called Salla in east north of Finland, just in Russian border, and uh, so many of the youngsters left to Sweden in that time that they said that Salla's biggest village is Göteborg. so 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 it's like how it happened, and actually it still affects to the Finnish labor markets because in that time we um, we made a system that we have so-called holiday return money, which means that after the holiday, when you come back to work, you will get some money, and that was done in 70s because so many went during the holiday to Sweden and never came back. And that's why we established this, which we still have, although that there's not that kind of uh, traffic anymore so much. But I think that it was a positive for the both countries. Swedish got a good labor force, which for certainly made Sweden richer, and at the same time, the generations in Finland after the Second World War were so big that it would have been difficult to find a job for everybody in Finland, and at least the living standard, what we have managed at that time in Finland would not be so good that for them, for most of them, it was in Sweden. So I think it was a win-win for both countries. Then the second point, of course, these border regions where people are living in the same labor area, although that they are living in a different country, like here in Öresund region, like we heard that almost 20,000 people go to work in every day over the bridge. Of course, in that is very important issue, and say a little bit similar is in northern part of the countries where the labor markets in between Finland, Sweden, and Norway are quite common in the northern part of our countries. There, people have used to go to work to an other Nordic country. That's a long tradition. And then it was also interesting to hear about this Nordjob and about that how important that is, especially for the islands like Åland, Faroe Islands, and Greenland. So that was also, I think, the important topic. Then I will take couple of the things which I think would be uh, uh, things where there are something to improve and work together more. One of them is telework or mobile work, which we have already discussed about here. Actually, we just got the new research that Finland is in Finland there are more people to doing the telework than in any other European country. That there's 22% of the Finnish are regularly doing the telework. Of course, the many of them are working partly like normal way and partly by telework, but there are also people who are working totally by telework. Like for example, there's one booking account company, one of the biggest in Finland, that they about 90% of their workers are working by telework, only by telework. So they only have very little offices because everybody is doing it by telework. And I know that some of those who are working for this company, they are also doing it from Sweden and from Norway and so on. So I think that we come to this topic what also the Swedish minister mentioned here, that how the system of taxation works, how the system of insurances work, how the occupational healthcare works when you are working full time in another you are working from from one country to another, and I think that's an issue which also is on the European Union level important, but I think especially in Nordic cases. So I think that's one thing to go forward to find more solutions for that. Then the other thing which I like to mention is labor-oriented immigration. Like we see here that now the situation in whole Nordic countries is that our population is aging. There are some differences, but it's aging anywhere, and all of us, we need a labor-oriented immigration. In Finland, we have in our government program that we want to have 4 partners: India, Philippines, Vietnam, and Brazil. And with those, we want to make agreement about the labor-oriented immigration. And if we look at from those countries' perspective, whole Nordic is very small from their so I know that from these countries there are also a lot of workers in other Nordic countries already. So there might be some idea about some kind of cooperation, that how we attract the workers and how it could be for those who are lost their job chances to seeking a new work. And of course that's important for our own citizens as well, but also for those who have already come and find their life here in Nordics. It's already mentioned that where we are needing the people, healthcare specialists, service sector, tourism, agriculture, IT sector, all of these kinds, there's a lot of things where we need the people. Then one more detailed issue to take part in. I think in most of the Nordic countries we have a system that if a foreign worker who is coming outside of the EU area is losing his or her job, there's some limited time that how long he or she can find a new job in that country. In Finland, we are just making this legislation. It will come to the parliament in next autumn. And in our case, it will be 3 months for the blue-collar workers, except those who has already been 2 years in a country, and then 6 months for those white-collar workers. But it just came to my mind that could it be also something to develop on cooperation, that if during that time you could find from other Nordic country, especially like for the white-collar workers, because from those who are working in Finland, white-collar jobs, they normally are working by English language, so it would be easy to come to other Nordic countries. This is just an idea which came during today. Then finally, a couple of words about our coming presidency of the Nordic Council of Ministers, which will be next year. There is one topic which we like to put also to agenda, and that is work against labor exploitation, because we see it as part of the legitimacy of the labor-oriented immigration is that labor markets are fair in Nordic countries for all foreigners as well. We have a collective agreements, and we have the same working conditions for local people and also for foreigners, and that is very important. That's very important in theory, and that is very important to put in practice. I think that is a very that is an idea of behind of the whole common Nordic labor markets, that they are fair, and that we want to also put to even more to agenda. I think mostly it's operating like that, but there has been some problems, and for this we want to tackle them even better. Thank you.